The morning sun cast long shadows across the Afghan mountains as Staff Sergeant Maria Santos adjusted her rifle scope. She had been tracking enemy movement for 3 hours, hidden among the rocks on a ridge overlooking the valley below. Her radio crackled softly with updates from her spotter, Corporal Jake Williams, who lay beside her with binoculars pressed to his eyes. "Movement at 2 o'clock, Jake whispered. 300 meters. Maria shifted slightly, her weathered hands steady on her weapon. After 2 tours in Afghanistan, she had learned to read the landscape like a book. Every shadow, every unusual shape could mean the difference between life and death for the soldiers below. The valley stretched out before them like a moonscape of brown dirt and scattered rocks. Somewhere down there, a Navy SEAL team was moving toward their objective, a compound where intelligence suggested high-value targets were hiding. Maria's job was to provide overwatch, to be their guardian angel from above. She had earned her position through years of dedication and countless hours of training. Growing up in Texas, Maria had learned to shoot from her grandfather, a World War II veteran who taught her that shooting was about patience, breathing, and respect for the weapon. When she joined the Army, her natural talent with a rifle quickly became apparent. But earning respect as a female sniper had not been easy. The military was slowly changing, but old attitudes died hard. Some soldiers still questioned whether women belonged in combat roles. Maria had heard the whispers, the doubts about her abilities. She had learned to let her performance speak for itself. The SEAL team leader, Lieutenant Commander Rick Mason, had made his opinion clear during their briefing the night before. He was a tall man with steel-gray eyes and 20 years of experience in special operations. When he learned that their sniper support would be a woman, his expression had hardened. "No disrespect, Sergeant," he had said, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "But this mission is going to be hot. We need someone who can handle pressure, who won't freeze when things get ugly." Maria had met his gaze without flinching. "Sir, my record speaks for itself. 47 confirmed kills, 0 missed opportunities when American lives were on the line." Mason had studied her for a long moment before nodding curtly. "We'll see." Now, as Maria watched the valley through her scope, she could see the SEAL team moving carefully between the scattered buildings of the village. They were good, she had to admit. Their movements were coordinated and professional. But she also noticed something they might have missed. "Jake, look at the building with the blue door," she said quietly. "3rd floor window, far right." Her spotter adjusted his binoculars. After a moment, he drew in a sharp breath. "I see him. Sniper, about 400 meters from the SEAL position." Maria studied the target carefully. The enemy sniper was well hidden, visible only as a slight shadow behind a curtain. He was positioned perfectly to ambush the SEAL team as they approached the main compound. His rifle barrel caught a glint of sunlight for just a moment before disappearing back into the shadows. "This guy knows what he's doing," Maria murmured. She keyed her radio. "Overwatch to ground team, you have a sniper threat at your 10 o'clock, blue building, 3rd floor." Mason's voice came back immediately. "Copy that, Overwatch. Can you eliminate the threat?" Maria calculated the distance, wind speed, and elevation difference. It would be a challenging shot, but well within her capabilities. "Affirmative. Stand by." She controlled her breathing, feeling her heartbeat slow as she entered the focused state that had made her one of the Army's best snipers. The world around her seemed to fade away until there was only the target, the crosshairs, and the gentle squeeze of the trigger. But just as she was about to take the shot, something made her pause. Through her scope, she caught a glimpse of movement in another building. Then, another. Her blood ran cold as she realized what she was seeing. "Jake, scan the rooftops." "All of them." Her spotter began a methodical search of the surrounding buildings. What he found confirmed Maria's worst fears. "Jesus, Santos. There are at least 6 enemy positions. They've got the whole area covered." The SEAL team was walking into a carefully planned ambush. The single sniper Maria had spotted was just bait, meant to draw their attention while other shooters took position. It was a sophisticated trap that could wipe out the entire American team. Maria's mind raced as she assessed the situation. The SEALs were committed to their approach route and couldn't retreat without exposing themselves to crossfire. The enemy snipers were positioned too well to take them all out quickly. And time was running out. "Ground team, this is Overwatch," she said into her radio, her voice calm despite the urgency of the situation. "You're walking into a complex ambush. Multiple sniper positions, at least 6 shooters." There was a long pause before Mason responded. "How certain are you, Overwatch?" 100%, sir. "I count 6 confirmed positions, possibly more." Another pause. Maria could imagine the SEAL leader weighing his options. They were too close to abort the mission entirely, but proceeding meant walking into a deadly trap. "Overwatch, can you provide a solution?" Maria looked through her scope again, studying the enemy positions. They were spread across multiple buildings, each one offering the shooter excellent concealment and fields of fire. Taking them out would require precision, speed, and a little bit of luck. "Negative on eliminating all threats simultaneously," she reported. "But I have an idea. I need you to trust me." Mason's voice came back after a moment. "What do you have in mind?" "Create a diversion. Make noise, draw their attention. When they focus on you, I'll start taking them down. But you need to be ready to move fast when I give the word." "Understood. How long do you need?" Maria calculated distances and angles in her head. If everything went perfectly, she could eliminate 3 or 4 of the snipers in rapid succession. The others would go to ground, but it would give the SEALs a chance to reach cover. "Give me 30 seconds after you start the diversion," she said. "Copy that. Initiating in 60 seconds. Maria settled into her shooting position, her finger resting lightly on the trigger. She had trained for moments like this, but never under such pressure. 6 enemy snipers against 1. The SEALs were counting on her to even the odds. Jake lay beside her, calling out wind conditions and helping her track targets. "Wind is steady, 2 miles per hour from the west. First target is range 420 meters." Through her scope, Maria could see the enemy sniper in the blue building shifting his position slightly. He was good, she realized. His movements were minimal, professional. But everyone made mistakes eventually, and when he did, she would be ready. The radio crackled. "Overwatch, this is ground team. Initiating diversion in 5 seconds." Maria took a deep breath, held it, and waited. Everything depended on the next few minutes. The SEALs' lives hung in the balance, and she was their only hope of survival. In the distance, she heard the first explosion as the SEAL team began their diversion. The hunt was about to begin. The explosion echoed across the valley as the SEAL team detonated a diversionary charge near the compound's outer wall. Maria watched through her scope as the enemy snipers reacted exactly as she had hoped. They shifted their positions, trying to get better angles on what they thought was the main American assault. That moment of movement was all she needed. Her first shot rang out across the mountains, the sound sharp and decisive. The enemy sniper in the blue building jerked once and then went still. Maria was already shifting to her second target before his body hit the floor. The sniper on the brown building's rooftop was harder to see, hidden behind a low parapet. But when he raised his head to scan for the source of the gunfire, Maria was ready. Her second shot found its mark, and another threat was eliminated. 2 down, Jake reported quietly, his binoculars tracking the remaining positions. "Third target is moving, green building, 2nd floor." Maria swung her rifle toward the new target, but the enemy sniper had learned from his companion's fate. He stayed low, only exposing the tip of his rifle barrel as he searched for her position. She would have to wait for a better opportunity. Instead, she turned her attention to the 4th sniper, positioned in a partially collapsed building on the village's eastern edge. This one was less disciplined, clearly rattled by the sudden loss of his teammates. When he moved to get a better angle on the SEAL team, he exposed too much of his body. Maria's third shot sent him tumbling from his perch. But now the remaining snipers knew where she was. Bullets began striking the rocks around her position as they returned fire. Maria and Jake pressed themselves flat against the ground as chips of stone flew overhead. "We need to move," Jake said urgently. "They've got our position triangulated." Maria grabbed her rifle and low-crawled to a new position about 20 meters away. The movement saved her life as high-powered rounds shattered the rocks where she had been lying moments before. From her new vantage point, she could see the SEAL team had used the confusion to advance closer to their objective. But they were still in danger from the remaining enemy snipers. She needed to finish the job. "Ground team, this is Overwatch," she radioed. 3 tangos down, at least 3 still active. I need another diversion to flush them out." Mason's voice came back immediately. "Copy that. Stand by." Seconds later, smoke grenades began popping around the village as the SEALs created a screen for their movement. The white smoke drifted across the buildings, obscuring vision and forcing the enemy snipers to reposition again. Maria spotted movement on the green building as one of the remaining snipers tried to get above the smoke. She tracked him carefully, waiting for the perfect moment. When he paused to aim at the SEAL team below, she took her shot. The rifle bucked against her shoulder, and, through the scope, she saw the sniper spin and fall backward. For down, but there were still more out there. Jake suddenly grabbed her arm. "Santos, we've got a problem. Look at the minaret." Maria swung her scope toward the tall tower that rose above the village mosque. What she saw made her blood run cold. A sniper was positioned in the minaret's upper level, nearly 500 meters away. He had an elevated position with a clear view of the entire area, and his rifle was trained on the SEAL team's position. Worse, he was using the minaret's ancient stones as cover, making him nearly impossible to see except for brief moments when he moved. This wasn't just any sniper, his positioning and movement showed the kind of expertise that came from years of experience. "That's got to be their leader," Jake said grimly. "The one the SEALs have been calling the Ghost." Maria had heard the stories. For months, an enemy sniper had been picking off American and coalition forces throughout the region. The SEALs had dubbed him the Ghost because he seemed to appear from nowhere, take his shots, and vanish before anyone could respond. Intelligence suggested he was a former military sniper from another country, now working with the Taliban. Several attempts had been made to eliminate him, all unsuccessful. He was too smart, too careful, and too good at reading his opponents. The fact that he was here, personally overseeing this ambush, showed how important the target in the compound must be. "Overwatch, we need that threat eliminated now," Mason's voice was tight with urgency. "We're taking accurate fire from the minaret." Maria studied the target through her scope. The range was at the very edge of her weapon's effective capability, and the target was using excellent cover. She would have one shot, maybe two, before he disappeared into the minaret's interior. Making matters worse, the wind had picked up as the afternoon sun heated the valley floor. She could see dust devils spinning in the distance, indicating shifting air currents that would affect her bullet's trajectory. "Jake, give me a wind reading," she said, settling into her shooting position. Her spotter studied the mirage patterns and dust movement carefully. Variable winds, 3 to 5 miles per hour, shifting between southwest and west. Range to target 520 meters. Maria did the calculations in her head, adjusting for the distance, elevation difference, and changing wind conditions. It would be the most difficult shot of her career. She took a deep breath and peered through her scope, waiting for the Ghost to make his mistake. Professional snipers were patient, but they were also human. Eventually, the desire to take a shot would override his caution. Minutes passed. The SEAL team was pinned down by accurate fire from the minaret, unable to advance or retreat safely. Other enemy fighters were beginning to reinforce the village, drawn by the sounds of battle. Time was running out. Finally, Maria saw what she was waiting for. The Ghost shifted his position slightly, trying to get a better angle on the SEALs. For just a moment, his shoulder and part of his head were visible through the minaret's ancient stone archway. Maria controlled her breathing, feeling her heartbeat slow to the familiar rhythm that preceded a difficult shot. The crosshairs settled on the barely visible target. She applied pressure to the trigger, smooth and steady. The rifle fired, and Maria immediately lost sight of the target in the scope's recoil. For a heart-stopping moment, she wasn't sure if she had hit or missed. Then, Jake let out a low whistle. "Holy shit, Santos. You got him." Through her scope, Maria could see the ghost's rifle barrel tilting downward, no longer tracking targets. The sniper himself was nowhere to be seen, having fallen back into the minaret's interior. "Overwatch to ground team," she radioed. "Threat from the minaret is eliminated." "Outstanding shooting, Overwatch," Mason responded, and Maria could hear a new note of respect in his voice. "That was a hell of a shot." But the engagement wasn't over yet. Maria could see more enemy fighters moving through the village streets, and there might still be other snipers she hadn't identified. The SEALs needed to complete their mission and get out before they were overwhelmed. "Ground team, you need to move now," she advised. "More enemy forces are converging on your position." "Copy that. We're moving to the objective." Maria watched through her scope as the SEAL team advanced quickly toward the main compound. Without the sniper threats, they could move more aggressively, using their superior training and equipment to overwhelm the remaining defenders. But something bothered her. The ambush had been too well coordinated, too professional. And why had the ghost shown himself at all? In all the intelligence reports, he was described as someone who never took unnecessary risks. "Jake, keep scanning," she said quietly. "Something doesn't feel right." Her spotter began a methodical search of the surrounding area while Maria continued to provide overwatch for the SEAL team. They had reached the compound and were beginning their assault, moving from room to room with practiced efficiency. That's when Jake made a discovery that changed everything. "Santos, we've got a problem. Big problem." Jake's voice was tense as he pointed toward a ridge on the opposite side of the valley. "There's another sniper team setting up about 800 meters out. They've got a clear shot at the compound's exit route." Maria swung her scope toward the distant ridge and felt her stomach drop. Two figures were positioning themselves among the rocks, and one was setting up what looked like a heavy sniper rifle. They were too far away for her to engage effectively, but close enough to devastate the SEAL team when they tried to leave the compound. That's why the ghost showed himself, she realized. He was the distraction. This whole ambush was designed to drive us toward the compound so they could trap us there. The enemy had been thinking several steps ahead. They knew American forces would send sniper support for a mission like this, and they had planned accordingly. The ghost had sacrificed himself to sell the deception, making Maria think she had eliminated the primary threat when the real danger was still out there. "Overwatch to ground team," Maria radioed urgently. "You have a sniper team on the eastern ridge. 800 meters from your position. They're setting up to engage your exit route." Mason's response came back immediately. "Can you eliminate them?" Maria studied the distance and terrain. 800 meters was beyond the effective range of her weapon system for a precision shot, especially against moving targets. She would need to get closer, but that would mean leaving her overwatch position and potentially exposing the SEAL team to other threats. Negative. Range is too extreme for effective engagement. You need to find an alternate exit route. "There is no alternate route," Mason replied grimly. "The compound backs up to a cliff face. We have to come out the way we went in." The situation was deteriorating rapidly. The SEALs were trapped in the compound with only one way out, and that exit was covered by enemy snipers who outranged Maria's position. Worse, she could see more enemy fighters moving through the village, cutting off potential escape routes. Maria's mind raced through the options. She could try to reposition closer to the enemy sniper team, but that would take at least 20 minutes of dangerous movement across open ground. The SEALs didn't have that kind of time. Then, she remembered something from the mission briefing. The compound was built on an ancient trade route that included a series of underground tunnels. They had been mentioned only briefly, dismissed as too dangerous and unmapped to be useful. "Ground team, what's your status on the target?" she asked. "Target secured. We're preparing for extraction, but we need that sniper threat eliminated. Check for underground access. There should be tunnel systems beneath the compound. There was a pause before Mason responded. Found something. Looks like a cellar entrance that connects to a tunnel system. But we have no idea where it leads. It's better than walking into a sniper's crosshairs, Maria replied. Take it. While the SEALs explored their underground options, Maria focused on the enemy sniper team. Through her scope, she could see they were still setting up their position, taking their time to ensure perfect shots. They were confident that their targets had no choice but to come out the main exit. But Maria had an idea. Jake, I need you to take the radio, she said, handing him the communication device. Guide the SEALs through whatever you can see from here. What are you planning? Her spotter asked suspiciously. I'm going to get closer to that sniper team, Maria said, checking her equipment. Close enough to take them out. Jake stared at her. Santos, that's suicide. You'll be crossing open ground in broad daylight. They'll see you coming from a mile away. Not if they're looking in the wrong direction. Maria explained her plan quickly. While the SEALs moved through the underground tunnels, she would use the distraction to get within effective range of the enemy snipers. It was dangerous, but it was their best chance of getting everyone home alive. This is insane, Jake protested. Even if you get close enough, you'll be outnumbered 2-1. I've been outnumbered before, Maria replied, slinging her rifle across her back. Besides, someone needs to prove that female snipers aren't the weak link everyone thinks we are. She began moving immediately, using the terrain to mask her approach. The rocky landscape offered some concealment, but she had to be careful not to skylining herself against the ridge. Every movement had to be deliberate and calculated. As she moved, Jake's voice came through her earpiece, providing updates on both the SEALs' progress and the enemy snipers' activities. Ground team is making progress through the tunnels. They think they found an exit about half a kilometer from the compound. What about the snipers? Still setting up. Looks like they're expecting a long wait. Maria continued her approach, covering ground quickly but carefully. The afternoon sun was working in her favor, creating heat shimmer that would make her harder to spot at long range. But it also meant she was running out of time before the day's shadows would expose her movement. After 30 minutes of careful movement, she reached a position about 400 meters from the enemy sniper team. Through her scope, she could see them clearly now. Both were experienced operators, their equipment and positioning professional. But they were focused on the compound and hadn't noticed her approach. Overwatch in position, she whispered into her radio. I have eyes on both targets. Copy that, Jake responded. Ground team is approaching the tunnel exit. They'll be vulnerable for about 30 seconds while they emerge. Understood. I'll engage when they start their exit. Maria settled into her firing position, using a large boulder for support and concealment. The first target was the spotter, who was scanning the compound area with binoculars. The second was the sniper himself, who had his rifle trained on the compound's main entrance. She would have to take both shots quickly, before the second sniper could react and return fire. At 400 meters, her accuracy would be good, but she couldn't afford any mistakes. Ground team is moving to exit position, Jake reported. They'll be emerging in 60 seconds. Maria controlled her breathing, feeling the familiar calm that came before a critical shot. Through her scope, the enemy spotter's head filled the crosshairs. She would take him first, then shift immediately to the sniper. 30 seconds to emergence, Jake announced. Maria's finger rested lightly on the trigger. Everything came down to the next few moments. The lives of the entire SEAL team depended on her ability to eliminate both threats before they could engage. 15 seconds. She could see the enemy sniper adjusting his position slightly, preparing to fire. His concentration was total, focused on the area where he expected the Americans to appear. Ground team emerging now. Maria fired. Her first shot took the spotter cleanly, dropping him instantly. The sniper beside him started to turn, confusion evident in his movements as he tried to understand what had happened. But Maria was already shifting targets, her training taking over as she lined up her second shot. The enemy sniper was bringing his weapon around toward her position when her second bullet found him. He collapsed across his rifle, the threat eliminated. Both targets down, Maria reported, breathing hard from the adrenaline. Ground team is clear to move. Outstanding work, Overwatch, Mason's voice came back, and this time there was unmistakable admiration in his tone. That was textbook shooting. Maria watched through her scope as the SEAL team emerged from the tunnel system and began their movement toward the extraction point. They moved with the confidence of professionals who knew their guardian angel was watching over them. As she prepared to move back to rejoin Jake, Maria reflected on the day's events. She had eliminated 6 enemy snipers, including the legendary Ghost, and saved the entire SEAL team from a sophisticated ambush. More importantly, she had proven that skill and determination mattered more than gender when lives were on the line. Later, as the helicopter carried them back to base, Lieutenant Commander Mason approached her in the aircraft's crew compartment. The noise of the rotors made conversation difficult, so he had to lean close to be heard. "Sergeant Santos," he said, his gray eyes serious. "I owe you an apology. My comments last night were out of line." Maria looked at him steadily. "No apology necessary, sir. You hadn't seen me work yet." Mason shook his head. "That's exactly the problem. I made assumptions based on nothing more than prejudice. What you did today. I've never seen shooting like that. The Ghost alone was a 500-meter shot in variable wind conditions." "Just doing my job, sir." "No," Mason replied firmly. "That was way above and beyond. You saved every life on my team today. The SEALs don't forget something like that." When they landed at the forward operating base, word of Maria's performance had already spread. Soldiers who had questioned whether women belonged in combat roles found their assumptions challenged by undeniable results. 6 confirmed enemy kills, including a legendary sniper that multiple teams had failed to eliminate. The mission reports would detail the tactical success, the intelligence gathered, and the high-value target captured. But, for Maria, the real victory was simpler. She had proven that when American lives were on the line, what mattered wasn't the gender of the person behind the rifle, it was their skill, their courage, and their commitment to bringing everyone home safe. In the days that followed, the story spread throughout the special operations community. The female sniper who had eliminated the Ghost and saved an entire SEAL team became something of a legend herself. But Maria remained focused on the job, knowing that each mission brought new challenges and new opportunities to prove that excellence had no gender. The SEALs never called her unstoppable. They didn't need to. Her actions had spoken louder than any words ever could.